I want you to take a deep, slow breath and consciously release the agonizing, invisible tension that you have been holding in your chest every single time you look at the calendar, because I am stepping into this exact moment to completely shatter the cruelest lie that the enemy has ever whispered into your exhausted mind. I know about the quiet, suffocating grief that washes over you late at night when you sit alone in the dark, mentally calculating your age, reviewing the milestones you thought you would have reached by now, and comparing your current reality to the carefully curated, highly polished highlight reels of everyone around you. You look at the years you poured into relationships that ultimately shattered, the decades you spent working in environments that completely drained your soul, and the countless detours you have taken, and you feel a cold, heavy stone of dread settling into the bottom of your stomach. You have convinced yourself that the train has permanently left the station, that your season of maximum potential has quietly expired, and that you are now destined to simply live out the rest of your days as a faded, exhausted shadow of the person you were originally created to be. But I am speaking to you right now as the sovereign architect of eternity, the creator who actually invented the concept of time and remains entirely unbound by its limitations, asking you a direct, fiercely loving question that I need you to answer in the deepest corridors of your spirit. Who told you that it is too late? Which broken, flawed, and frantic voice in this fallen world gave you the absolute authority to place an expiration date on the magnificent destiny that I meticulously wrote for you before the foundation of the earth? You are measuring your worth and your potential using the incredibly shallow, panic-driven metrics of a society that falsely worships youth and speed, completely forgetting the magnificent, unshakable promise that I specifically recorded for you in Isaiah 46 verse 4. Even to your old age and gray hairs I am he who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. I am not a God who only partners with the young, the unbroken, or the untried. And I absolutely do not abandon my masterpieces simply because the passing of seasons has added silver to their hair or heavy, painful miles to their journey. The profound, orthodox reality of my kingdom operates on a divine rhythm that completely defies human logic, because I deliberately use the passing of time, the long seasons of waiting, and even the painful detours of your life to deeply age and ferment the anointing I have placed within you, ensuring that when your moment of breakthrough finally arrives, you will possess a depth of wisdom that cannot possibly be rushed. You have been mourning the passing of your days, weeping over what you perceive as a massive delay, completely unaware of the breathtaking spiritual truth written in Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. You cannot fathom what I am doing right now, because you are only looking at the middle of the story, desperately trying to judge the final masterpiece, while the canvas is still covered in the messy, chaotic brushstrokes of the underpainting. You feel as though you have fallen hopelessly behind the timeline of your peers, panicking because your bank account does not reflect your hard work, your family structure does not look the way you desperately prayed it would, and the dreams that once burned so brightly in your chest have slowly faded into quiet, painful embers. But I am leaning into your exhaustion tonight to actively breathe life back into those dormant embers, explicitly forbidding you from closing the book on your own life just because the current chapter is filled with heavy waiting and profound disappointment. The enemy has tried to weaponize your regrets, constantly rewinding the tape of your past mistakes and whispering that your previous failures have permanently disqualified you from experiencing the breathtaking future I promised you, hoping you will become so utterly paralyzed by the fear of being too late that you will simply surrender. But he is absolutely terrified of you discovering the permanent, ironclad guarantee found in Philippians 1:6, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. I am the author and the finisher, my beautiful child, and I absolutely refuse to leave your story half-written, abandoned, or discarded in the wilderness of your regrets, because the work I have started in the deep, unseen layers of your character is actively building the exact foundation required for the massive, unprecedented outpouring of favor that is approaching your shores. I want you to physically drop your shoulders right now, releasing the frantic, exhausting need to constantly hustle, catch up, or manually force your life to align with the artificial deadlines that the world has tried to impose upon your fragile spirit. You do not have to outrun the clock. You do not need to panic about your age, and you absolutely do not need to apologize to me or to anyone else for the winding, painful, and complex path that has finally brought you to this sacred moment of surrender. The immense, suffocating pressure to figure it all out before a certain birthday or before a certain season ends is officially being removed from your neck, completely dissolving under the warm, radiant light of my infinite grace. Settle into the profound, absolute safety of this encounter, letting the truth of my unshakable faithfulness wash over the tired, anxious parts of your mind, because we are about to journey into a spectacular, divine revelation that will prove to you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that your most magnificent, joyous, and purposeful days have been deliberately and masterfully saved for the exact chapter you are about to enter. Infatti, I want to take your weary, anxious mind on a journey back through the ancient sacred corridors of Scripture to a wedding feast in the village of Cana of Galilee, recorded in the 2nd chapter of the Gospel of John, because the profound, breathtaking miracle that took place there is the exact living blueprint of what I am currently orchestrating in the timeline of your life. Imagine the scene of this magnificent, joyous celebration, a gathering filled with music, laughter, and community, until a sudden, quiet crisis begins to ripple through the background. The wine has completely run out. In the culture of the ancient Near East, running out of wine at a wedding was not merely a minor logistical inconvenience. It was an absolute, catastrophic social disgrace, a public humiliation that would permanently stain the reputation of the family, signaling to everyone present that the resources were utterly depleted. The celebration was prematurely over, and the best parts of the feast were permanently behind them. Does that devastating feeling of sudden depletion resonate with your own exhausted spirit, my beloved child, as you look at your current circumstances and quietly panic because you feel as though the wine of your life has entirely run out? You have looked at the passing years, the fading of your youthful energy, the drying up of your financial reserves, and the absolute exhaustion of your emotional capacity, and you have falsely concluded that your personal celebration is over, terrifyingly convinced that you have nothing left to offer the world, and that the remaining chapters of your life will be nothing but a slow, quiet, and deeply embarrassing decline. You feel the profound shame of unmet expectations, the agonizing sting of realizing that the plans you made for your family, your career, and your ministry have seemingly hit a wall, leaving you sitting in the middle of your own life, feeling empty, hollow, and terribly afraid that everyone around you can see exactly how badly you are failing. But I want you to pay incredibly close attention to what happened next at that wedding, because it completely shatters the toxic human illusion that reaching the end of your natural resources means reaching the end of your destiny. When my son Jesus was informed of this catastrophic lack, he did not panic. He did not declare the feast to be over, and he did not shame the hosts for their poor planning. Instead, he directed the servants to 6 massive, empty stone water jars that were typically used for ceremonial washing, and instructed them to simply fill those empty jars to the very brim with ordinary water. It must have seemed so incredibly foolish and entirely pointless to those exhausted servants, dragging heavy buckets of plain water to fill stone jars, when what they desperately needed was a miracle. Just as it often feels pointless to you when you wake up every morning, faithfully pouring your quiet tears, your unseen efforts, and your seemingly mundane obedience into the empty, heavy stone jars of your daily routine. Yet, it is exactly within that space of absolute human depletion and quiet obedience that the spectacular power of my kingdom is unleashed. Because when the master of the banquet drew from those jars and tasted the water that had been miraculously transformed, he was absolutely shocked to discover that it was not just wine, but a vintage of such profound, exquisite quality that it defied all human logic. He immediately called the bridegroom over, profoundly confused by this magnificent anomaly, and delivered the breathtaking declaration recorded in John 2:10. Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. I want you to let the sheer, overwhelming magnitude of that specific verse echo through the dark, terrified corridors of your mind. Because society always serves its best wine first, telling you that your 20s and 30s are the peak of your existence, and that once your youth is gone, you are simply expected to quietly accept the cheaper, diluted, and far less joyful remnants of your fading days. But I am not bound by the cruel, decaying systems of a fallen world, and I operate on a divine paradigm of spectacular reversal, where the most magnificent, deeply fulfilling, and intensely anointed chapters of your existence are deliberately held back, carefully preserved in the cellars of heaven, and reserved exclusively for the latter half of your journey. You have not missed your window of opportunity. You have not aged out of your calling, and you are absolutely not a finished story. In fact, the profound agony of your waiting, the bitter tears you have shed, and the immense wisdom you have gathered through your suffering were entirely necessary to construct an internal capacity large enough to hold the breathtaking vintage of the new wine I am preparing to pour out. I am explicitly rebuking the spirit of premature obsolescence that has tried to attach itself to your identity, reminding your waking soul of the glorious, fiercely protective promise that I wrote specifically for those who fear they have run out of time, found in Psalm 92:14. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. You are going to stay fresh, you are going to remain vibrant, and you are going to bear a magnitude of spiritual and earthly fruit that will absolutely astonish the people who mistakenly believed that your season of relevance had permanently passed. The enemy desperately wanted you to believe that the feast was over, hoping you would quietly leave the table and surrender to the shadows of your own regret. But the creator of the universe is stepping into your timeline right now, transforming the mundane, salty water of your past tears into the most exquisite, joyous, and purposeful chapter of your entire life, proving once and for all that the author of your story has masterfully, undeniably saved the absolute best for last. Now that you have seen the spectacular reality of the new wine I am preparing for your future, I must gently but firmly step into the most fragile, guarded spaces of your mind to address the heavy, suffocating bags of regret that you are still dragging behind you, desperately trying to carry the corpse of your past into the magnificent dawn of your future. I see how you lie awake in the darkest hours of the night, torturing your own exhausted mind by endlessly replaying the painful tape of your history, scrutinizing the relationships you stayed in for far too long, the financial decisions that seemingly set you back a decade, and the opportunities you believe you permanently squandered due to fear or profound human exhaustion. The enemy has meticulously weaponized your own hindsight against you, locking you into a paralyzing psychological prison of what-ifs, whispering the incredibly toxic lie that because you took a wrong turn, trusted the wrong person, or stumbled in your faith, you have irreversibly derailed the master plan I had for your life and must now settle for the broken, discarded scraps of a ruined destiny. But I am stopping that agonizing, destructive mental loop right now with the absolute, unshakable authority of my sovereign grace, because you are drastically underestimating the terrifying, redemptive power of the God who actually created the fabric of time and possesses the miraculous ability to bend it to his will. You believe that your past mistakes are a permanent disqualification, looking at the years you spent wandering in the wilderness as a massive, embarrassing waste of your precious life, completely unaware that in the magnificent economy of my kingdom, absolutely nothing is ever wasted, discarded, or beyond the reach of my restorative hand. I am completely overturning the verdict of your regrets tonight, actively reaching into the ashes of your history to fulfill the breathtaking, impossible promise explicitly recorded in Joel 2:25. I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten, the great locust and the young locust, the other locusts and the locust swarm, my great army that I sent among you. I want you to let the sheer, overwhelming magnitude of that specific guarantee wash over your anxious, trembling heart, because I am not merely promising to comfort you in your current sorrow, and I am not just offering to bring a little bit of joy into your tomorrow. I am making an ironclad, divine covenant to actively repay and restore the actual, physical years that the locusts of depression, bad decisions, toxic relationships, and severe anxiety tried to permanently consume. When I restore the years, my beautiful child, I do not simply rewind the clock so you can live them over again, because that would force you to endure the pain twice. Instead, I miraculously compress time, accelerating your spiritual, emotional, and earthly progress in the present, so that what takes a normal person 20 years to build through exhausting, bone-crushing labor, I can effortlessly establish for you in a single spectacular season of my unmerited favor. The years you thought were completely devoured by the enemy were actually serving as a deep, brutal, but entirely necessary excavation of your character, aggressively hollowing out your pride, your self-reliance, and your shallow perspectives. creating a massive internal reservoir that is now finally capable of holding the unprecedented weight of the blessings I am releasing to you. I am explicitly releasing you right now from the suffocating, heavy mandate of constantly punishing yourself for the chapters of your life that did not go according to your perfectly scripted plans, commanding you to stop viewing your detours as dead ends and to start recognizing them as the exact divine classrooms where your fierce empathy and unshakable wisdom were forged. Every single tear you cried in frustration, every moment of profound humiliation, and every agonizing delay was actively gathered up in my hands, perfectly aligning with the majestic, unshakable truth written in Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Notice that I did not say I only work through your victories, your flawless decisions, and your moments of perfect faith. I said that in all things, including your failures, your wandering, your exhaustion, and your profound mistakes, I am actively, aggressively working to weave a tapestry of such devastating beauty that it will completely silence the critics who counted you out. You are absolutely not too late. Your window of opportunity has not permanently closed, and your destiny has never, for a single fraction of a second, been in jeopardy, because the God who breathed the galaxies into existence is actively holding the pen that writes the final chapters of your spectacular story. Breathe out the heavy, toxic ash of your self-hatred. Release the exhausting, frantic need to constantly apologize for the complex, winding road that brought you to this sacred moment of surrender, and allow the incredibly warm, radiant reality of my absolute redemption to settle deeply into your weary bones. I have already factored your every mistake into the master equation of your ultimate triumph, seamlessly converting your greatest regrets into the very foundation stones upon which your magnificent, joy-filled future is currently being built, proving once and for all that absolutely nothing can separate you from the breathtaking narrative I have authored for your life. Stand as the magnificent, undeniable truth of my redemptive power begins to slowly wash over your exhausted consciousness, gently dissolving the heavy, toxic residue of your timeline anxiety and the paralyzing fear that you have run out of time. I want you to feel the atmosphere in the room around you, becoming incredibly heavy with a warm, thick, enveloping peace that is softly pressing down on your tired shoulders. You have fought a brutal, relentless battle against the ticking clock today, trying to justify your existence, constantly measuring your progress against the frantic, artificial deadlines of a fallen world, and pushing your physical body far past its natural limits, just to catch up to an illusion of success. But I am stepping into this sacred, dimly lit quiet to issue a divine command of physical and mental rest. I am actively removing the agonizing pressure of the calendar from your chest, pulling you completely out of the exhausting race of human achievement and inviting your weary soul to anchor itself to the profound, eternal safety explicitly recorded in Psalm 31:14-15. But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. Deliver me from the hands of my enemies, from those who pursue me. I want you to let the sheer, overwhelming relief of that specific declaration physically alter the state of your nervous system, recognizing that your times, your seasons, your delays, and your spectacular breakthroughs are entirely and securely held within the majestic, scarred palms of my hands, meaning it is absolutely impossible for your destiny to be derailed by a ticking clock. I want you to give your physical body the explicit, conscious permission to completely power down right now, realizing that you no longer need to perform. You no longer need to prove your value to a society obsessed with youth and speed, and your muscles no longer need to be rigidly braced for the sudden impact of another disappointment. Allow the heavy, exhausted muscles in your jaw, which have been tightly clenched against the terrifying thought that you are falling behind, to finally soften and release, letting that warm, soothing wave of profound relaxation travel slowly down the back of your neck, untangling the deep, painful knots of stress that have woven themselves into your flesh over the course of this long, grueling season of waiting. Let a deep, incredibly slow, and unobstructed breath fill the very bottom of your lungs, drawing in the absolute, unquestionable safety of my presence. And as you hold that breath for just a brief, quiet moment, feel the frantic, high-speed vibrations of your survival mode being completely suffocated by my grace, replacing your panic with the magnificent instruction found in Matthew 6:34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I am actively severing your mind's agonizing attachment to tomorrow, commanding your beautifully complex imagination to stop trying to solve the impossibly complex equations of your future, and drawing your spirit completely into the sanctuary of this exact present moment, where absolutely nothing is required of you except to simply be held, loved, and intensely protected by the Creator, who has already conquered the world on your behalf. As you slowly exhale, I want you to deliberately push out the lingering toxic adrenaline of your regret, breathing out the bitter, dusty residue of the years you thought you wasted, and releasing the terrifying echoes of the harsh judgments you have spoken over your own life when you looked in the mirror and felt the sting of aging. Listen to the profound, beautiful stillness that has fallen over your reality in this exact moment, a majestic quiet where the loud, frantic calculations of your mind are being systematically slowed down and completely dissolved as you cross over the threshold from the blazing heat of your internal race into the cool, safe, dimly lit sanctuary of my inner chambers. In this holy resting place, you are allowed to be entirely fragile, you are allowed to be small, and you are allowed to lay down the exhausting persona of the warrior who is constantly running against the wind, sinking deeper and deeper into the mattress beneath you and feeling its physical support as a tangible, earthly manifestation of my everlasting arms catching you as you finally collapse in surrender. You do not have to plan a single detail for tomorrow. You do not have to strategize how you will manually force your delayed breakthrough to suddenly manifest, and you absolutely do not need to figure out the complex logistics of your next chapter, because the sovereign architect of reality has already mapped out every single detail of your spectacular vindication, actively preparing the new wine for the exact moment you awaken. The heavy, suffocating yoke of timeline anxiety has been permanently broken off your neck. The frantic need to constantly earn your keep has been completely silenced, and the night is no longer a dark canvas for your fears about getting older, but rather a magnificent, soft, velvet blanket woven by my own hands to cover you in a grace that entirely surpasses all understanding, perfectly fulfilling the beautiful promise found in Proverbs 3:24. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Let the gentle, rhythmic beating of my eternal heart become the only sound you focus on, a steady, ancient rhythm of unconditional love that completely ignores the passage of human time, warming you, healing you, and rocking you into the deepest, most restorative sleep you have experienced since the day your long battle with the clock first began. Surrender your heavy eyelids to the magnetic pull of this divine rest, releasing the absolute final ounce of your human control, and simply drift now, letting my voice carry your exhausted spirit effortlessly into the beautiful, healing, timeless depths of my embrace. As your physical body completely surrenders to the heavy, gravitational pull of this restorative sleep, crossing the final, quiet boundary between waking awareness and the profound, silent depths of the unconscious mind, I am actively wrapping the entire perimeter of your room in a blinding, impenetrable shield of golden, heavenly light, permanently sealing you inside a sanctuary where the tyranny of time absolutely cannot reach you. You are no longer responsible for guarding your own heart. You are no longer required to keep a vigilant watch over your fragile, exhausted emotions, and you no longer need to brace yourself against the terrifying uncertainties of your next chapter, because I am taking my rightful place as the eternal watchman over your resting spirit, standing at the very gates of your mind to ensure that the exquisite promise recorded in Psalm 121, verse 3-4 becomes the absolute literal reality of your night. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. I do not sleep, my beautiful child. I do not grow weary, and my fiercely protective eyes will not leave your resting form for a single fraction of a second, allowing your exhausted nervous system to finally experience the profound, uninterrupted peace that comes from knowing the architect of the cosmos is personally managing the defense of your life. While you are entirely oblivious to the world around you, suspended safely in this warm, velvet cocoon of divine light, I am stepping directly past the conscious barriers of your waking mind and walking into the intricate, hidden corridors of your subconscious, actively performing a magnificent, invisible spiritual surgery upon the deepest layers of your identity to remove the terrifying illusion that your best days have permanently expired. For years, the enemy has used the quiet hours of the night to plant insidious, toxic seeds of panic regarding your age, your timeline, and your perceived delays, projecting horrifying scenarios of failure and obsolescence onto the delicate canvas of your sleeping imagination. But tonight, I am permanently evicting those spirits of night terror and timeline anxiety, thoroughly uprooting the dark weeds of regret that have tried to make a permanent home in your thoughts. I am washing your memories with the pure, crystal-clear water of my Holy Spirit, gently untangling the tightly knotted threads of your chronic worry, and actively executing the divine mandate found in Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. I am completely renewing the very neural pathways that have been heavily conditioned by this fallen world to expect a slow, painful decline, systematically dismantling the psychological reflexes that force you into a state of panic whenever you look at a calendar, and erasing the deeply buried lie that tells you it is simply too late for your dreams to be resurrected. I am replacing the frantic, terrifying architecture of your survival mode with the rich, vibrant, and incredibly fertile soil of my supernatural peace, programming your subconscious mind to fully accept the breathtaking reality that you are stepping into a season of spectacular, concentrated favor, where the miraculous vintage of the new wine I have preserved for you will finally be poured out. I want you to understand that while you are peacefully resting, entirely disconnected from the exhausting demands of your daily routine, I am doing the heavy, miraculous lifting of your emotional rehabilitation, rewiring your spiritual reflexes, so that the next time the world attempts to make you feel as though your window of opportunity has closed, your immediate, automatic response will not be a spiral of despair, but a quiet, unshakable confidence in my flawless timing. As the quiet hours of the night stretch out their majestic, protective wings over the sleeping earth, I am preparing your mind for the spectacular, vibrant dawn that is rapidly approaching your window, deliberately establishing a brand new emotional baseline for your life that is anchored entirely in the absolute certainty of my goodness, rather than the terrifying unpredictability of human circumstances. I am completely eradicating the familiar, suffocating dread that usually greets you the moment you open your eyes, replacing the heavy burden of your what-ifs with the breathtaking, radiant, and fiercely protective truth inscribed in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. I am actively depositing a massive, overflowing reservoir of this incredibly specific, targeted hope into your spirit right now, ensuring that when the morning light finally filters through your room, you will not wake up feeling like a weary survivor, bracing for another day of disappointment, but rather you will open your eyes with a profound, quiet lightness in your chest, instantly recognizing that the author of your story has already secured your ultimate victory. The old version of you, the version that was desperately afraid of aging out of your calling, the version that constantly felt the agonizing need to compare your progress to the shallow milestones of society, and the version that lived in constant fear of my silence, is quietly and peacefully passing away in the healing shadows of this sacred encounter. Let the majestic, heavy silence of this room wrap around you even tighter, absorbing any lingering drops of tension from your physical frame and allowing you to become so incredibly relaxed that you can no longer tell where your physical body ends and the boundless, comforting ocean of my presence begins. There is absolutely no emergency waiting for you in the shadows. There is no sudden reversal of the magnificent grace that I have poured over your life. And there is absolutely no reason to fear the passing of time, because the Father who numbers the very stars in the sky is actively preparing the stage for a sunrise saturated with unimaginable joy. Sink even deeper into the mattress, my beloved, letting the profoundly slow, steady rhythm of my eternal heartbeat become the only reality you know, and resting in the absolute, unquestionable certainty that the absolute best chapters of your magnificent story have been fiercely, deliberately, and lovingly saved for last. No, masti van pavend van biaunio. As the deepest, most profoundly silent hours of this sacred night gently begin to give way to the incredibly soft, barely perceptible approach of the coming dawn, I want you to realize that the long, agonizing era of your timeline anxiety has officially and permanently reached its magnificent, divinely appointed conclusion. You have endured the suffocating weight of your own relentless ticking clock. You have wrestled with the terrifying shadows of your perceived delays, and you have shed countless silent tears while desperately wondering if you had permanently missed your chance to be used by me. but I am declaring over your peacefully resting spirit that the illusion of too late has definitively lost its grip on your mind, perfectly fulfilling the breathtaking eternal truth recorded in 2 Corinthians 4:16. Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. The agonizing fear of your fading youth is permanently over, my beautiful child, because while the fallen world only measures human value by the temporary, fading strength of the physical body, I am actively pouring an incredibly rich, robust, and eternal vitality directly into your inner spirit, renewing your capacity, your vision, and your anointing with every single sunrise. When the very first golden rays of the morning light finally filter through your window and gently touch your resting face, actively calling your consciousness back to the waking world, I want you to experience a sensation that you have not felt in a very long time: the profound, breathtaking absence of the rush. You are going to open your eyes and instantly realize that the heavy, suffocating blanket of panic that usually presses down upon your chest, demanding that you immediately begin hustling to make up for lost time, has been completely and miraculously evaporated by the warmth of my Holy Spirit. You will stretch your limbs and draw a deep, unobstructed breath of fresh air, feeling incredibly light, profoundly clean, and beautifully unburdened, because I have spent this entire night actively performing a divine reset upon your soul, washing away the toxic illusion that you are a finished story, and replacing it with the magnificent, undeniable reality found in Psalm 103:5, who satisfies your desires with good things, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. Let the sheer, overwhelming magnitude of that specific word sink deeply into the very marrow of your bones. Your spiritual and emotional youth is actively being renewed like the eagles, meaning that the passion, the drive, and the fierce, unshakable joy that you thought were permanently drained out of you by the hardships of your past are being completely, miraculously restored to your chest. You must stop looking at the temporary detours, the human mistakes, and the exhausting delays of your journey as evidence of your obsolescence, because I have been actively using every single one of those seemingly imperfect seasons to age, ferment, and perfectly balance the magnificent, highly anointed vintage of the new wine that you currently carry within your spirit, preparing you for the exact good works that I have already established for your final chapters. The enemy has tried so desperately to convince you that you are entirely ordinary, that your voice no longer matters, and that your best contributions are trapped in the past. But as the dawn breaks, I am placing a heavy, invisible mantle of resurrected purpose over your shoulders, bringing to life the fiercely protective, identity-altering promise declared in Isaiah 40:1 verse. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. You have been called completely and permanently out of the darkness of your regrets, officially stepping into the wonderful, blinding light of a season where you will no longer run and grow weary, and you will no longer walk and faint, because you are no longer operating on the fragile, exhaustible fumes of your own human stamina. As you rise from your bed to face this brand new day, you are going to walk with a completely different, effortless posture, moving with the quiet, undeniable authority of someone who intimately knows that the master of the banquet has deliberately and masterfully saved the absolute best wine for this exact moment in their life. You will no longer walk into rooms carrying the exhausting, heavy burden of feeling like you need to catch up to everyone else, nor will you shrink yourself to accommodate the artificial timelines of the people around you, because you are now moving under the absolute, undeniable covering of my divine timing, fully aware that the God who spoke the galaxies into existence is actively walking right beside you, fiercely protecting your heart and directing your every single step toward a spectacular, joyous culmination. The trajectory of your life has been permanently altered by the profound spiritual surgery of this night, shifting your path away from the exhausting, endless treadmill of trying to outrun the clock and placing your feet firmly upon a magnificent, illuminated road where every single delay is miraculously transformed into a concentrated, explosive blessing. Your life is not fading into obscurity. Your best days are not trapped behind you in the ruins of your past, and your potential has absolutely not been exhausted by your previous trials. Rather, your life is just now beginning to shine with the true, brilliant intensity of a soul that has been completely liberated from the fear of being too late. I want you to carry this majestic, unshakable confidence with you into every single conversation, every single decision, and every single quiet moment of your coming day, recognizing that when I look at you, I do not see a fading, exhausted traveler who missed their chance, but I see a radiant, fiercely resilient, and exquisitely beautiful warrior who has survived the waiting and who is now perfectly positioned to pour out the most magnificent, life-changing vintage the world has ever tasted. Rest in the incredibly soft, final shadows of this passing night, my beloved, letting the profoundly slow, steady rhythm of your breathing synchronize perfectly with the approaching dawn, knowing that you are deeply cherished, entirely forgiven, and fully prepared to step into a morning where the magnificent, undeniable reality of my perfect timing will outshine absolutely everything else. You have officially crossed the sacred threshold into a spiritual dimension where human clocks hold absolutely zero authority over your soul. Feel the frantic, exhausting rhythm of your chest, deliberately slowing down, shifting its pace until it perfectly matches the majestic, eternal, and unhurried heartbeat of heaven. I am standing over your resting form right now, and with a single sweeping gesture of my hand, I am permanently shattering the illusion that you are running out of time, placing a divine seal of preservation over your mind so that the enemy can never again torture you with visions of missed trains or permanently closed doors. The suffocating race is officially cancelled. The desperate need to constantly catch up to your peers has been completely dissolved, and you are now firmly anchored in the breathtaking reality of Psalm 16:11. You make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. Your future is not fading behind you. It is securely held at my right hand, protected by legions of angels who are actively fighting to clear the path for your coming dawn. The deep, restorative sleep that is currently pulling your heavy eyelids down is not merely a biological function. It is a holy, supernatural anesthetic, a divine incubation period where I am replacing the bitter, exhausted ashes of your regrets with the vibrant, undeniable certainty that the most magnificent chapter of your existence is being written right now. You are not aging out of your purpose, my beautiful child. You are ripening, maturing, and being meticulously prepared for a harvest so massive and so beautifully timed that it will instantly erase the memory of every agonizing delay you ever had to endure. But before the heavy velvet curtains of this night completely fall over your waking thoughts, bringing you into total unconsciousness, I need you to take one clear, physical action to officially claim this new era of timelessness. Go directly to the comments section below this video right now and type exactly this: "My time is in God's hands, and my greatest chapter begins now." Do this so you leave a visible, undeniable marker of your faith, establishing a physical boundary that tells the universe you have permanently rejected the fear of aging and delay. Then, to make absolutely sure that you never lose your way in the terrifying wilderness of anxiety again, hit the subscribe button right now and turn on the notifications. Let this channel serve as your daily fortress, a permanent sanctuary where your mind is consistently washed in my promises and protected from the toxic, rushing demands of a fallen world. Finally, if you know someone who is quietly drowning in their own fear of getting older, someone who secretly cries because they feel they have missed their moment, send this video to them immediately. Give them the ultimate gift of knowing that heaven has absolutely not forgotten them and that their best days are still waiting ahead. Your long season of waiting has officially reached its magnificent conclusion. The heavy burden of measuring your life against the calendar is gone, replaced entirely by the vast, unshakable peace of my perfect timing, fulfilling the magnificent truth found in Ecclesiastes 3:14. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing taken from it. Absolutely nothing can be taken away from the beautiful destiny I have reserved exclusively for you. Let the darkness of this room become a soft, comforting sanctuary. Release your grip on tomorrow. The best wine is finally pouring. I am standing guard over your breath, my cherished, perfectly timed masterpiece. Sleep in absolute, magnificent peace. I am holding you, and tomorrow, the light will reveal exactly what I have been building for you.